Rovers fight as one for every goal and try. Since '85 we've stood our ground, though trophies passed us by. From Craven Park to Wembley Way, with 𝗲𝗂𝗍𝗲 grip we fight. Now we rise, our heads held high, proudly wearing the red and white.
The Robin Pod is powered by Budget Tyres Auto Centre. Make them your first and only choice for a vast array of vehicle services. They are reputable East Hull-based car specialists and dedicated to providing quality services at reasonable prices. And don't forget, they are trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers. Find them at 146 Leeds Road and ask them about the exclusive discount they offer Hull KR Rovers Forever members.
Well, that was a little bit different, wasn't it? A bit of a different introduction, Carl. Welcome to this week's Robin Pod Weekly, your essential Hull KR podcast, packed with all the latest news from East Hull's finest. We'll start with a look back at a tough outing for the Robins as they fell to the Leigh Leopards. What went wrong? What needs fixing? Then we turn our attention to a massive challenge ahead. The upcoming clash with the Catalan Dragons, of course. We'll have all the latest injury and squad news, including who could line up down in the south of France. And there's big transfer news breaking this week with Jack Charles set to make the move across the river to join the Robins. We'll discuss what that signing means for the club and the wider city rivalry. We've also got question time, and we'll answer all your questions about Hull Kingston Rovers. No topics too big or too small. And don't miss this week's Robins Revisited, where Steve Till joins us to share memories and stories from KR's rich history. All that and more right here on the Robin Pod Weekly. Welcome, Carl. Welcome, James, to this week's Robin Pod.
Evening, guys.
Don't go talk at once, will you?
Evening, gents.
I think you're both dumbfounded by the new intro. And to be fair, a guy called Mark Newman, who's an avid listener of the Robin Pod, he got in touch with me. He said, I've got this great song. I've been doing these songs, blah, blah, blah. I wrote it after the Challenge Cup final victory. Hearts of Red and White. We heard the intro, so I'm going to do him the justice of playing the full song now. I quite like it. It's a catchy country song. And to be fair, if you listen to the words, they're quite poignant. So this is Mark Newman, Hearts of Red and White.
Oh, Kingston Rovers fight as one for every goal and try. Since '85 we've stood our ground, though trophies passed us by. From Craven Park to Wembley Way, with 𝗲𝗂𝗍𝗲 grip we fight. Now we rise, our heads held high, proudly wearing the red and white. That fateful day at Wembley, beneath the rain-filled sky, we stood as one as we sang, our voices echoing high. The Wolves led, our hearts a mess, 6 points to 2 the score, till Davy struck to give us hope, and Lewis sealed the roar. Now raise your voices, the drought is gone. The mighty Rovers back where they belong. From East Hull streets to the Wembley lights, forever in our hearts with the red and white. Oh, 40 years of waiting, 40 years too long, but with every song and chant it kept us strong. From every corner of East Hull, the Robins raise their voice. The Red Army stand together as today we all rejoice. Now raise your voice. The red and white army marches on, loud and proud we sing our song. Robins past and present, this win is for you and the lads who brought home Challenge Cup win #2, forever in our hearts.
I tell you what, guys, that's a song I can get on board with. I tell you what, it's like a movie. I was ready for, if we had a montage of the Robins at Wembley, I tell you what, Matt Newman, he penned the lyrics to that. Great song. You can find it over on YouTube. If you search for Sharky Mark 92 on YouTube, you'll be able to listen to that song, download it. I don't know if you subscribe, whatever. But I do know what, that's my new intro song. And I like it. I like it a lot. It's almost, like I said, it's like a movie theme. So anyway, that was then. Let's go back, Carl, to Saturday afternoon. 28 points to 10, victory for the Leigh Leopards over the Robins. Of course, it could have been so much worse had Gareth O'Brien nailed more of his kicks. I don't know, what was your thoughts going into that? Because, of course, we went into that game, Carl, on the back of the defeat to Leeds. It had been 16 months since we'd lost back-to-back games, and we thought, I thought, we're not going to go back-to-back now, are we, surely? But we did.
Yeah, I didn't think, initially, they'd lose. I thought they'd win, but by a really tight margin. So initially, I didn't think they'd lose, like I've just said, but in hindsight, when you look at numerous factors, Mikey not playing, and we haven't had a break all season type of thing, and we're just lacking a bit of momentum these last couple of weeks. So them 2 or 3 things go a long way in rugby league, and ultimately that's what sort of cost us. We looked a bit leggy at times. Our defence wasn't up to what it's been for the majority of the season, and like you say, ultimately it cost us. And if it wasn't for Gaz O'Brien, it could have been a few more also. So you're correcting what you're saying there.
Yeah, James, the big news, of course, was Mikey Lewis not playing. But the big question mark was who would replace him? Would it be Jez Litton going into the halves with possibly Mickey McAlorum starting and then Bill Leyland coming off the bench? Or would we go with Danny Richardson? We went with Danny Richardson. I think Willie Peters has been desperate to give him an opportunity. Of course, we recalled him from his loan at Salford. To see him in the lineup, was that what you wanted? Was that what you expected?
Yeah, it was, to be honest. I did expect that. I thought, it's all right. People sort of saying probably putting Jez at half back, but then you end up sort of probably moving more pieces around.
Can you hear me, James?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was. For me, it was the right thing to do. I think it was the least disruptive overall.
No, James, your internet signal's absolutely terrible at the moment.
Is it? Right. I'm gonna move rooms then. I'm gonna move rooms. So just switch me off. Yeah. I'll just leave and come back in again.
There you go. So you keep the missus out of the living room and you go that. But Carl, a lot of supporters, haven't they, been wanting Danny Richardson to play? Because we'd seen, haven't we, Willie Peters put square pegs in round holes a few times this season. So to see Danny Richardson lining up at halfback, who's obviously there as a backup player in the event of someone like Tyrone May or Mikey Lewis to then be lining up in the side, that's what a lot of people wanted.
Yeah, definitely. And, like you just touched on a second ago, there's been a couple of times where he's put his sort of forced his arm and played Hicko in the halves, hasn't he? And yeah, we were strong in defence doing that, but obviously you lose a lot in attack. So James is right in what he was saying, put a natural halfback in the halfback position. You're not moving as many players around and sort of round pegs in square holes to a degree. So, yeah, it was the right thing to do. It's just obviously gutting for Danny that he picks up that injury and he could be out now between 10 and 12 weeks, I'm reading. So he's waited a long time for an opportunity. He just hasn't had the luck and the rubber green, has he?
Yeah, he's a player who's sadly, his career's been blighted by peaks and troughs in terms of he's had really some standout moments in terms of performances, and then it's then been blighted by injuries at the wrong time. Not just injuries at the wrong time, bad injuries as well, which has then kept him out of the side and stops him being able to play for not just the Robins, but obviously, all the teams that he's been at. So, of course, as well, James, it was great to see 𝗲𝗂𝗏𝗏 back in the starting lineup, because previous to that, we saw him coming off the bench, and a role that I didn't really like, to be honest. I think he's more of a punchy forward. You've got to start him. Willie Peters obviously tried something different, but I was pleased to see him back in the starting lineup rather than coming off the bench, James.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think, when he's been, I was surprised when he has been coming off the bench. I think, when his best, I think his best use, I'll say, from the start, and sort of doing that with Mickey McAlorum, having that sort of strangling role of the opposition and sort of keeping them trying to sort of nullify their threats early on. And I just wondered whether him coming off the bench, he just sort of lacks that impact.
I think also as well, Carl, my opinion is that when he comes off the bench, he's desperate to make something happen. Whereas when he starts, he sort of feels his way into the game. But when he comes off the bench, he's almost like, I've got to make an impact, boom, 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 straight away. Now, sometimes he can do that cleanly in terms of started and straight running. But then other times you see him in defence, maybe not coming up with the best tackles and stuff like that. And he seems desperate to make something happen.
Yeah, you're right. And you've seen that in the last couple of games. But, he's made a career out of being an enforcer, hasn't he? So, he's gonna give penalties away. He's going to do daft things. But like you say, he's literally coming onto the field and he's thinking, right, I'm an enforcer. I've got to put a good shot in. I've got to let the opposition know that I'm there. And, he's made a career out of that. And unfortunately, doing that recently has cost us a few penalties, etc. But, you're right in what you're saying. He is trying to make an impact off the bench, and it probably just doesn't suit him because he's never actually done that as such.
Yeah, I mean, we look at the starting lineup, James, and we mentioned 𝗲𝗂𝗏𝗏, of course, Danny Richardson. Maybe the biggest surprise was the fact that Rhys Martin wasn't included. Of course, we've seen him come back from injury, on time, on schedule. Of course, he hadn't taken on the kicking duties, which is understandable due to the type of injury he had. We saw him line up against the Rhinos. Not much talk about why he wasn't included in the side against Leigh. I know Willie Peters has sort of answered a few questions in the press conference ahead of the Catalan game in terms of maybe his fitness, but I, for one, was expecting him to be in that lineup. Was you expecting him to be? Because I didn't see no reason for him not to be, and he's not injured. It just seemed a bit of a strange one for me.
It did seem a strange one, and I was really surprised when I saw the team that it wasn't in it, because I think obviously he came back against Leeds after quite a few weeks off, and I thought he went all right against Leeds. He scored a try. I think he was pulled off with about 15 minutes to go. That's probably more just because he had been out for so long that Peters wanted to give him a rest. But yeah, it did seem a strange one. I know there was sort of, I think Will Thompson on one of the Daily Mail or whatever it was saying it was obviously something that Peters would be asked about in the post-match, but nothing seemed to come out of it apart from something cryptic during the week that Peters saying Rhys knows what he's got to do, which just adds a few things and thinking, actually, is he potentially going down the George King route where he's fallen out? And then you've got all the rumours today flying around that he's off on loan to Castleford, and Tom Amone's coming in the opposite direction. So yeah, it is a strange one. So it'll be interesting whether he plays this weekend.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt, is the Cal. I mean, we've seen the players gone previously. If you fall on the wrong side of Willie Peters, there's no mucking around. You're chipped out, and it's good night Vienna. I mean, we hope it don't come to that, because there's no doubt whatsoever Rhys Martin is a top quality player. But ultimately, I think Willie Peters has the luxury of not necessarily just looking at the team. He looks at the bigger picture. He's been afforded that luxury through the investment in the squad, in terms of, well, if Martin don't play, look at the emergence of Whitbread, for example, in the second row, and his increased fitness levels and his ability to do big minutes. But yeah, it was just an interesting one that I want to play. And of course, there's rumours flying around. We won't delve into the rumours right now that potentially he's departing and Amon might be coming back and blah, blah. We'll see what pans out.
What I would say on that, Chris? Sorry, mate. What I would say on that is the chances are he's probably just not match fit. You know, when you're a team, you know, in relatively good form, won a trophy, and you're top of the league, it's easy to start thinking, why aren't players getting picked? But ultimately, Willie Peters already, whoever's been in that squad, if they've been performing well, they've kept the players, haven't they? And, you know, if he's come back and he's not fully match fit, and Willie Peters has seen that in training, he's seen a few little glimpses in the match where he's thought, well, you know, he's on his heels, he's not quite there with the pace of the line, and etc. You know, just for him to take him out of the squad for a week or two, it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be moving on and he's fell out with a coach, you know. So I think speculation.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. The only caveat to that I would say is when you found out in the Challenge Cup final, Hargreaves should have been nowhere near even playing. And in reality, neither should be McIlroy.
And McIlroy as well. You brought McIlroy back when, you know, then played 30 minutes at Wembley and then, you know, had a rest for 3 weeks. Yeah, I don't know.
The chances are, if he's not your number one second rower, he probably wouldn't have played before now. And the same with the Hargreaves. If they're not established, you know, first team professionals who've got a stellar career, Willie Peters won't throw him. I think you've seen that from him before. So it's one of them where he makes a decision and he backs what he says or does. You know, so the chances are he's just not match fit yet. Hopefully that is the case.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, this is why I back him to the hill, because you don't get it wrong.
No, exactly,
you know, he gets it right pretty much every time. I mean, let's concentrate on the game now. We saw Ethan O'Neill going for a soft try, really, wasn't it? I mean, he was gifted a try, James. That try was then compounded by the fact that Danny Richardson went off after 15 minutes. It's interesting, isn't it? Because Willie Peters has spoke about he wasn't very happy with that tackle as well. It's sort of a little bit like a hip drop. He said the way that Danny Richardson then went down onto his ankle, and he tried to carry on, didn't he? But you could see, I think he did a kick into touch, or he did a kick out. I think it was a fifth and last, and you could see as soon as he kicked it, there was no way that he was able to continue. And obviously then Jez Litton comes on, and that's pretty much worst case scenario, isn't it? 15 minutes in, you've already lost Mikey Lewis. Your replacement halfback's then gone off injured. And now you're having to go back to a sort of patched up kind of team in terms of Litton going into the halves. Of course, Mickey McIlroy was we saw at the start of the season through his 20-minute stints, he was never supposed to be an 80-minute player. And then straight away going, well, who's going to play? If he goes here, what's going to happen there? And let's be honest, James was facing a red-hot Leigh side. And I think at that moment they sniffed blood. And
they did,
They really went for it.
They did, and they took advantage of it. I think, you know, if you watched them against Wigan the week before, I think we knew, I just knew it was going to be a really tough game there. I didn't have a funny feeling about Saturday. But yeah, I think, you know, they basically did to, I think they did to us what we've been doing to lots of other teams this season. Just, you know, one of the strengths we've had has been just really controlling that game in the first 25 minutes, just smothering the opposition, grinding them down, and then, you know, getting scores on the board, and not letting them back into it, which, you know, we probably should have done again. We looked like we were doing against Leeds last week, but obviously bombed those chances. But I think, you know, fair dues to Leigh. I think they came with a, you know, very clear game plan, and they executed it to perfection. I think they probably recognised, you know, given the heat, you know, we probably might be, you know, getting a bit jaded after, you know, like I said, not having a rest all season, and, you know, the flinging the ball around from side to side, and that was just sort of stretching us and making us even more tired. So I think, yeah, got to give, you know, full credit to Leigh for what they did on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, Cal, when Richardson goes off, Litton comes on, you know, you're starting to, like I said, you know, wonder what's going to go on. And it was the Robins who came with the next try, though. And when Tyrone May goes up for that try, which was, I must say, was absolutely fantastic. I thought it was a brilliant try. You know, it frustrates me because I want to see him doing more of that at the line. You know, I think Tyrone May sometimes just goes through the correct processes for the attack. But when you see him play that off-the-cuff rugby, that's the best of him. You know, and it's frustrating for me that we don't see that more of him. But at that point, when it goes, Tyrone May scores, we get the kick, 6-all, and we're going, do you know what, if we could just weather this storm a little bit? I didn't see that much reason why Leigh were far superior than us. But then, of course, then Hanley goes in for the next try. Then we see Keenan Brand go in. And then it just started to unravel a little bit, didn't it? And I think, for me, we started doing a lot of... Willie Peters talks about the Hull Kingston Rovers performance. Well, we started to do a lot of things that weren't synonymous with the Hull Kingston Rovers performance.
Yeah, and the biggest thing for me, the goal line defence and, you know, the open field defence, the scramble wasn't what it has been for the, you know, majority of the season. And like you say, there was a couple of them Leigh tries where you thought, bloody hell, that's us defending in 2019. You know, that soft defence mentality. That's, you know, 2 passes out wide and you'll score past us, but we haven't seen that for the last 2 or 3 seasons. So yeah, maybe it's you know, a bit of a come down. But yeah, it's at that point when Rovers did score, I didn't think they would score, and then when they conceded, I didn't think they would concede. So, you know, it was one of them where you was thinking, oh, we're going to do this, or we're going to, and then they scored again, and it was like, well, it looks like it's not going to happen today.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, James, I mean, I think in the paper it is chaos. I think I'd like to label it more about adversity. We saw McAlorum going off on the 33rd minute. That, of course, then meant Jez Litton going back to hooker. And then we saw 𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗃 go into the halves. We saw James Batchelor then go to the centres. Dean Hadley then played a sort of... It's really interesting how the forwards rotate, isn't it? Because Whitbread goes to prop, then the sort of swap with Hadley and you know, how they interchange. But
excuse me.
You know, we saw against Wakefield earlier on in the season when Hickey went into the halves. Do you know what? He's one of my favourite players, if not probably the second favourite player. But when Hickey goes into the halves, we lose the impact in the centres. And for me, he's not a halfback. He's not. Yeah. He don't play that natural game. He almost becomes just another defender in the line, which isn't necessarily a bad thing at times. But you lose so much attacking flair, don't you? And that's for me when I thought it's sort of backs against the wall kind of job now. How can we sort of try and shut Leigh out? And like I said to you earlier, James, when Leigh were running red hot, you know, everything started to tick their boxes for what they wanted out of that game in terms of the Robins and what they had to face. But it was 14-6 at half time, James. You know, people are going, oh, if we could get a try early on. And we did with Tanganoa. And then you're thinking, right, game on.
I said to the missus, I said, you know, I think we need to score first, second half. Because, like I say, if they score again, that's it. But yeah, I thought Tanganoa's try, I thought it took it really well. You know, sort of, he had it all, still had it all to do. But, you know, I think it showed his the strength he's got. I think we want to take 2 or 3 players over the line with him. And I think, getting back to, was it 14, whatever, well, getting scoring there. 14-10, yeah. We're back in it. You're thinking, okay, we've got, you know, we've sort of scored 2 tries out of probably nothing really. You know, we've been back to the wall all game. Yeah, actually, we can settle this down and score again, get that momentum going. Then we've got a chance of being able to pull this out, but unfortunately, it just didn't happen.
Yeah, and Carl, the problem is they kept punching holes in our defence, didn't they? None more so than who just was a threat. Especially, I think Batchelor held his hand up, didn't he? He did a post-match interview and said, "Look, when he moved to centre, he just didn't do a good enough job on him." And then we saw the Lachlan Lamb try. I mean, second game in a row where we've seen a full length almost try go in, and it is something that needs addressing, isn't it? Because you know, we're a side that prides itself on defence, and defence starts high up the pitch. And you can credit the opposition for that attacking flair, that ability to offload, and that hard and fast running. But if you stop it at source, then you stop the try. And I think it's something that Willie Peters will be looking at, how we do fall off some tackles high up the pitch against teams who've got hard and fast runners.
Yeah, even in early parts of the season where the defence has been solid, you know, even if the line has been broken, the scramble's been unbelievable. 2 or 3 bodies getting over, covering, and last couple of games just hasn't quite been there. And again, that there's factors for that, isn't there? So yeah, Leigh was good on the day. Fair play to them. They threw it about when they needed to, but Rovers was fairly soft in defence, wasn't they?
Yeah, and it's them missed tackles, isn't it,
And that's
James?
frustrating thing.
It's it's not the first game where we've topped the missed tackle count. It's becoming a bit of a regular theme at the moment.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that what's probably our biggest strength all season is just we actually came back to Horns. I think we have missed games when we have missed quite a lot of tackles, but by the same token we've been able to sort of score more, score and sort of so that they haven't really come into play. But like I say, I think I'm trying to think for the rest of the season, apart from the one against Leeds and the Lambs on Saturday, how many length of field tries we've conceded. Like Cal said, we haven't. We've just, if that line has been broken, there's been the cover there, and it's nullified. And you've had to work now. Tries, but this on Saturday it was like I say, going back to the bad old days where we're just giving soft tries away.
Yeah, I'm just looking now. 20 missed tackles from Leigh, 46 from Rovers. And it's not about the cumulative, is it? It's about the individual missed ones. You only have to miss one and it costs a try. There's no doubt that they'll be looking at that as something that they can improve upon. But yeah, it's just frustrating, isn't it? And then, of course, we saw Josh Charnley go in for his 250th, his 251st try. There's only one player in Super League, another former Robin, who scored more tries than him, which is, of course, rien. Interestingly, James, do you know when his first try in Super League was and who it was against?
I can't remember who it was against, but I know it's for Rovers.
Yeah, it was in the Hull derby. First try in Super League was on loan at the Robins in a Hull derby. And then his 250th try was against the Robins. A player who, interestingly, doesn't seem to have much of a future at Leigh either, as well.
Wigan, doesn't he?
He's mentioned that. We can't not talk about the defeat without mentioning the 𝗀𝗃𝗄𝗃 HIA, then the yellow card, then the fact that 𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗄𝗃 was then sin-binned. It transpires now that 𝗀𝗃𝗄𝗃 has got a 1-game suspension. Thankfully, that's on the back of 𝗀𝗃𝗄𝗃 and then, well, not thankfully, but getting HIA, which will rule him out the next game, which, of course, is Catalans on Saturday. But it was such a messy situation, wasn't it, James?
Yeah, just no clue what was going on, did we?
And another one where Willie Peters wasn't happy as well, because there was an allegation of, don't forget, Litton got the yellow card for obstruction on Lachlan Lamb. I'll tell you what, Lachlan Lamb, though, did his best to let 𝗀𝗃𝗄𝗃 know that he was there.
Yeah, did a good job of crawling all over him, didn't he, to get back to his feet and sticking his knees everywhere. It's just a really bizarre one. Because I think, so Litton going off, and then 𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗃 came back on again, and then next thing, Liam Moore's talking to Minchella and 𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗃, and the yellow card comes out. I thought, what's 𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗃 done?
It was just a very strange one.
Yeah. But in the end, it's worked out well, hasn't it? Because he's missing. He's one match ban. He's going to miss it because of HIA anyway.
Yeah, I think for me, what was frustrating, Carl, is that when Lachlan Lamb went in for that try in the 49th minute, of course, then Josh Charnley scored. We then just never looked really getting back into the game. We just sort of, we looked a bit fatigued, we looked a bit leggy, we looked a bit disorganised, which is understandable, isn't it? Because look, when we talked about all them changes during the game, let alone the enforced changes pre-game, it's not going to be the most fluid performance, is it? But for me, what was frustrating is the energy level seemed to sap, and then we didn't seem to be able to get that go forward that we've become accustomed to. And don't get me wrong, Leigh took full advantage of that. Don't forget, this was a Leigh side, Carl, that was unchanged from the defeat from defeating Wigan the game previous. So they were running red hot. And I think we paid the price for just not being able to cope with the changes. But that's not a criticism. I think that's just more a fact of, look, if all this happens in a game, you've got to be super hot to be able to then react and then deal with it. And not only deal with it, come out on top of it.
Yeah, I don't think many teams would have beat Leigh under the circumstances we was playing under. Wigan might have scraped a narrow win over them, but like you say, credit to Leigh. They played Wigan the week before, turned them over. They did a number on us, so not many teams are going to beat Wigan and Rovers within 2 weeks of each other, are they? So yeah, it's just my overall riding fear of fact of it is like it's just frustration because the stuff we got beat at, we've been pretty much squeaky clean all season doing, and you know we can all point fingers on he's injured, he shouldn't have got sent off, he should, blah blah blah, and all these factors add up. Of course they do, but ultimately the stuff we've prided ourselves on, we've sort of let ourselves down the last couple of weeks, especially the second half of the Leeds game and the pretty much the full entire league game. So yeah, it's frustrating, but got to get back on the horse, haven't you? And let's go Saturday.
Yeah, right. Well, you mentioned Saturday. I tell you what, I caught up with Steve Till earlier for Robins Revisited. Steve, welcome back to the Robin Pod, of course. It's always a pleasure to have you on the Robin's Take on Catalans down in the south of France on Saturday. Where are you going to take us back to this time?
Well, this week it's been Bastille Day in France, where the French celebrate the storming of the Bastille and parties go on. Well, if you go back to 2007, our first season in Super League, it was on the actual day, the 14th of July 2007, Bastille Day. Kick-off 6 o'clock. Thousands of Rovers fans over there enjoying the sunshine as there will be this weekend. And Rovers put in a performance which started so well, but it became squeaky bum time towards the end of the game. In fact, Rovers started that well. Then the first team to score were Catalans. 𝗀𝗂𝗃𝗀𝗃 failed to field a high kick, and Clint Greenshields opened the scoring for the Frenchman, and it took about another 20 minutes for Rovers to get on the score sheet, but they did it in style. Tanga Tatoa equalised, touching down the Scott Morrell kick. Then Stanley Jean stormed over to make it 10-6. And after that try, the Catalans kicker put the ball into touch direct from the kickoff, and so Rovers had a set. And during that set, James Webster took a headshot that nowadays would have him having 3 weeks off. I think it was that bad. And in fact, he was treated, and he still looked dodgy when he stood up. And the trainer gave him another swig of water and said, "Get on with it." But as I say, nowadays it'd have been definitely a week off and possibly 2. Anyway, from the play the ball was swung wide to Ian Hardman, and Hardman scored. So Rovers were well in command. And then Mark O'Neill went over before half-time. Mark Lennon kicking 3 goals out of the 4. So it was 22-6 at half-time, and Rovers were looking forward to an easy second half. But it wasn't to be, because the Cats, they came back strongly, and they got three tries in the second half, and had Greenshields been able to kick all the goals, then Rovers would have been beaten. But 3 tries, they got to 20 points to 22, but Rovers just held on, and all those fans that were over there celebrated in style. So that was Bastille Day. This is Bastille Week, and let's hope that even if it is 22-20, let's hope Rovers get the victory that they hope for this week.
Carl, you're heading to the south of France. What are your expectations? Because, of course, we're hoping that the Robins do something that they've not done since 2019, which is crazy, really, isn't it? When you think about our recent run of form, especially under Willie Peters. We've got lots and lots of monkeys off our back so far, haven't we? Since Peters took charge, winning away in the Northwest, blah, blah, winning a trophy, all that. But this Catalan victory's been elusive for a long time. What are you expecting on Saturday, mate?
Yeah, well, like you say, I'm one of those. I'm a big believer of them types of small records are there to be broken. And after the last 2 weeks, it wouldn't surprise me if Rovers did that, because they've shown multiple times over the last couple of seasons that they're built from stainless stuff, and they are made of steel as a group of players. So when the backs are against the wall, majority of the time they do turn the tide, don't they, and get the results. So it wouldn't. Again, it's not going to be easy. Jesse's missing, etc. So it's never going to be easy. But I think they will get the job done, one way or another.
Yeah, James. I mean, when you look at it, the Robins, the bloody over the last 6 years, they've tried every approach possible, haven't they? They've gone on the day of the game. They've gone 2 days before. They've gone the day before. They've gone for longer camps. Interestingly, this time the Robins are actually in Catalans now. They've gone for a longer period. Willie Peters has said that they're going to use it as an opportunity to bond. The captain's run's going to be done over in France, and they're going to use it as an opportunity to get the team together and sort of recharge and spend some time together, which is, never a bad thing, is it? I mean, it's already a tightly knit group, and obviously this is an opportunity to really galvanise them. And let's be fair, James. I know Catalan sort of ran Warrington close in the previous outing down in the south of France. But this isn't a great Catalan side, is it? This is a Catalan side who's been struggling. So, I suppose the Rovers in us, though, go, well, we've lost 2. We're knackered. Going to France, south of France on a hot Saturday evening, it's got the hallmarks of another Robins defeat. But like Carl said, this is a different beast at the moment. This Rovers side's a different beast. And I think personally we're going to be all right. Proof's in the pudding, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I think like I say, it just for whatever reason we just seem to struggle over there. But I've no reason to not think that we're not going to come back without a win on Saturday. I think these sort of things are there to be broken. We played Catalan twice this season, haven't we? I've not been impressed with them at all in either game. They sort of ran Warrington close, but that's probably more down to do with Warrington than Catalan's being getting any form back. So it should be a win. The challenge obviously going to be the conditions. I think the forecast is for it to be pouring down, which probably doesn't really help flowing game, etc. But we've shown at Wembley we can sort of dig in and overcome those sort of conditions. But yeah, I think it's great that they've gone over now. Actually, it sort of gets them acclimatized to what's happening, and it becomes less disruptive. And they always say, when you're going over to France, people, they just go on the same day. They just like to sleep in their own bed. Now at least they've got a bit of time there. They can just chill out and relax a bit, and hopefully we should get the result on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, Carl, as we recall this, we don't know the squad news. I mean, I don't think it's going to be too radical. Of course, we know Ches-Lytton's definitely not playing. Would you like to see Bill Leyland and come on and take that role of Ches-Lytton and let Mickey McAlorum do his 20-25-minute stint, with Leyland then coming on and taking a bit of responsibility? Because we've seen him do it this season, haven't we, where he's come on and, he looks energised, he looks ready. Yeah, of course, he's still raw. Don't forget, Willie Peters will remind us that he's coming on the back of a really serious injury. And this season was all about him finding his feet, not just in terms of Super League, but in terms of just getting back to full fitness. But when he has come on, he's provided some real electric moments. And is this the game where do you think, I don't know, trust him and let him take on that role of Ches-Lytton?
I think the time's now for him, isn't it? He hasn't got, he's got utility players in the squad as Peters, but the time's now for young Bill, isn't it? You know, Jesse's out for 2 weeks, like we said. You know, you're going away to a side that's not performing very well. I think they only won two games all year, something like that. Catalan. You know, Rovers need a bit of energy injected into the middles around the pitch. So the time's now for him, isn't it? You know, like we were saying about Richardson earlier on, give him a chance, and hopefully he can capitalise on that. And you know, why not this week? There's probably no better time against a team that's struggling, and we need a bit of energy into that middle. So yeah, I think the time's now for him.
Yeah, I mean, James, you look at any other changes? You know, are we expecting Martin's going back into? That's why as we record this, we don't know the squad news. The big ones around Reece Martin, whether he's going to be included and whether he's going to then feature. Because then you look at the side and go, well, who's he going to play? If he does play, who's he going to replace? Sorry, Tanganoa, of course, scored a try against Leigh. He's got a very specific job. Dean Hadley, we know what he does in the side. You know, there's no way Hadley gets dropped. He's you know, if Willie Peters is right in his squad down, Hadley is the first probably name on that side. Luckily, we know what he does. And then, so other than the hooker role, it sort of picks itself, doesn't it? But, you know, it feels like this side needs energising. I think the big play for us, James, is going to be 𝗬𝗏𝗧. I think he's going to be the one who he's got a chance to really showcase himself. And Willie Peters resisted the edge to put him in the halves against Leigh. Yeah. And I think now it's up to 𝗬𝗏𝗧 to show Catalans why he's an out-and-out fullback, and that's his role. Because I think he's been an excellent player for us.
He's been brilliant. I think he's been, you know, probably the signing of the season, and the fact that we could get him in early was great. Like I was sort of trying to say at the beginning, I think, you know, the reason he probably didn't play about half for me was glad he didn't play about half against Leigh, was just it's too many moving parts again. So you know, you brought Richardson now, just one change, but yeah, I think he will. Yeah, he'll rise to the occasion, I think, on Saturday. In terms of other changes, I don't know whether Whitbread might be due a rest, because I thought he looked a bit leggy on Saturday. Don't know, have we got the option to recall Doro? Because again, you know, when he's played, he's come in and given.
Do you think they're playing up though? Because obviously, I was going to say, James, do you think though they're playing up to the rest of the week after almost? Because like Minchella, I think he's the only player who's not been really spelled. I think Minchella's played. Has he played every? I think he's played every game, hasn't he?
Yeah, didn't he get pulled off at some point during the game last week, Minchella?
Yeah, but he started every game, hasn't he? And I think he's.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Didn't he miss one of the cup games against Oldham York? No,
I'm sure. I tell you what, I'm sure he played against Oldham, and then they hooked him off when it was in the second half.
I remember him coming off for one for about, get about 20-25 minute rest.
But it looks like they're playing to that break, doesn't it? They've got a break.
They've got a break, but they want to be going into that break, I think, with still having that cushion of 2 points. Because obviously, if they don't lose, if they lose this weekend, and then we're going to play in the that lot, and our lead could have been cut down quite severely. And I think for me, it's important that they go in there into that break, still having that advantage, and that puts a bit more pressure on the other team. So. Yeah, I don't know. I just want to, say, is Doro? Can they recall Doro from Bradford? Because again, he apparently played really well on the weekend for them, didn't he? As I said, he gives a lot of injects some energy into it. And I agree with you about Bill Leyland. I think I've been really impressed with him this season, and I think he should be given that opportunity now. I think to do the Jez Litton role, because at the end of the day, next season when Mickey Mack retires. Your expectation is that Leyland's going to be doing that role anyway.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Yeah, that is it, definitely. And I'm going to keep checking Instagram, because every time Leyland's due to play, he posts on Instagram and getting his haircut. So
every game.
He don't post it saying I'm getting my haircut because I'm playing, but it's just very noticeable that when he's going to be in the squad, he's getting his haircut. So, I'm going to keep watching for that.
Is that code?
Yeah.
Going back to that Doro situation, James, looking at the squad from last week, I don't see him recalling them, because There'll be no. You're not going to remove Adley, Luckley, or Tangano from the bench, are you? And that Litton for Leyland will be a straight swap. So
Yeah.
I don't see the room for Doro this week, unfortunately.
I just want to, like I say, I just thought maybe think Whitbread, he's got a great, fantastic engine on him, but it seemed a bit leggy on Saturday. Just when they were due a rest, the break anyway.
What's been interesting is what I've noticed is Luckley's minutes have been reduced slightly.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem to be playing as big minutes now. He seems to be sort of marginalised a little bit in terms of impact, but I mean, it's unbelievable. Honestly, I cannot. I bet he can't tell you how he does it, how he gets his arm free to get the offload. Because the amount of times you think he's tackled, he's done, and then all of a sudden this arm just comes out or the ball just pops out. But I was going to say that was one thing that frustrated me. I know going back to the league game, Carl. I mean, there was some dubious calls with knock-ons where the referee seemed to give the benefit of the doubt to Leigh. When any other game, when that ball hits the deck, he's blowing the whistle. It just seemed they got the rubber green on some of them calls.
Excuse me. They've started every season. They bring like a new phrasing or a new rule, don't they? And this season, it's one of them with knock-ons or loose carries. It's in relation to the ground. They use that phrase a lot now, don't they? So, I mean, I don't know what part of the ground they're relating to, but it's in relation to the ground according to the officials. So, yeah, I get what you're saying with that one. Sometimes you sat in the stands, aren't you, thinking, I'm sure that's gone backwards. How's he call that forward? But it's one of them. If there's a 50-50 call, they're always going to give it a knock-on, aren't they, or loose carry. And unfortunately, that
was a problem against us.
Yeah, it's one of them, though, isn't it? Some of them you get, and others you don't. And it's normally the ones you don't get is when you're struggling and you're struggling for some momentum or results. So, yeah, I get what you're saying.
There's a couple that want the James where you go, hang on, how was it?
There was one, Bailey Hodgson, the kick through on it, like, and he just dropped it, and he said it went backwards, even though Liam Moore, like I say, was about 60 yards away. And 9 times out of 10 they give that a knock on regardless. And then obviously there was the captain challenge where he blew up for Burgess knocking on when he hadn't. Which I think one good thing about the captain challenge that they can go back to those sort of things. To
be fair to Burgess on Saturday, I don't think he'd have caught a cold. No, every time they put the ball up to him, he just couldn't catch it, bless him, could he? So there was a few of them that had off days, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's just one of those bad days at the office, wasn't it? So.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Like, I mean, Burgess, he infuriates me at times because attacking wise and close 10 metres out from the line, I think he's one of the best players in Super League. But in back play, he comes out some of these crazy errors, like trying to pass it, knock out, like, and I think that's probably, unfortunately, the difference between him being in the England squad and not being in the England squad. He just comes up with these errors where you just don't foresee it, like, and like I say, but he brings so much in attack, and he gives us so much pit. I absolutely love Joe Baird. I think he's a brilliant player, but just some of the errors, probably over the last, 4 weeks, just seem to be hampering us at really key moments in games.
He's one of them. He's one of them players, isn't it? It's like if you want someone doing really difficult, really well, Joe Burgess is your man. But if you want the basic stuff doing really easy, it's like, I'm not going to do the basic stuff. I'll do the difficult stuff that no other player can do. It's like when he goes up for the high ball with his hands above his eye, he can take them all day long. But when they're around his sternum, and it's like, oh no, I can't catch them ones. So it must be a concentration thing in his thought process when he's bringing the ball out of backfield. It's got to be.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, right. That's obviously Catalan upon Saturday next. It's going to be a massive encounter in it. Of course, all eyes are going to be on that because of not just Rovers' eyes, Super League's eyes are on it because they're wondering whether the Robins will go 3 in a row in terms of defeats. Of course, if they do and Wigan then get the victory that they probably expect that they're going to get, then it means that we're leveled back on points and all the Robins are absolutely kicking themselves because we thought we built up a healthy league. So let's see what happens. I'm sure that the Robins will prevail. There's been a lot of talk of other stuff going on as well, James. interesting one, wasn't it? Willie Peters' agent talking up the fact that Willie Peters could be a coach in the NRL, Brave Anastar, talking him up for the Gold Coast Titans job. Des Hasler, he's apparently under pressure. I don't know why, because he seems to have gone under the radar for so many years without actually doing anything with the Gold Coast Titans. But it's never great, is it, when the coach's agent is talking up a move? Because then you start thinking, whose ear is he in? Who's he sort of mentioning Willie Peters to? At the same point, you can't ignore Willie Peters and what he's been doing with the Robins.
No, exactly. I think it was going to be inevitable that he's going to start getting mentioned as an NRL head coach. Given how far the club has come, and I think in the fact, people do see that over in the NRL. They've seen that that was winning at Wembley and getting that sort of that monkey off our backs. We're going to Vegas, so they can see we're a club on the open. They look back. Actually, a lot of this has come from since Willie Peters has been there. So I think he's going to start getting linked to and things. But I think for me, once his contract is out, he will be going back to the NRL. There's no two ways about it. But I also think in a way it's a bit of a compliment as well. He's actually being touted as a head coach at an NRL club, when perhaps in the past, you look at someone like Justin Morgan, who went back to the NRL in an assistant role, and Andrew Webster, he's gone in as assistant, hasn't he, as well? So the fact that he's being touted or mentioned as potential head coach in the NRL, and all that pressure that comes with that sort of gig, shows that I think people probably do think he can deal with it, and it's a compliment to the type of coach he is.
Yeah, I mean, Carlo, I don't mind us talking about it. I don't mind the journalists talking about it. But when his agent's talking about it, then you start going, hang on, where is he heading? Because if the blokes who's in charge of your contracts and getting you a new gig is talking you up, that's what worries me about. Then where does that head to? Because if I don't know, if I had an agent and he's talking about me going to a NRL club and I'm quite happy, I'll be going, what the fuck? Why are you saying that? Shut up! No, I pay you to get me a new deal, not talk up a deal somewhere else. And that's it just felt a bit odd to me that he's talking about doing that. But it's a genuine question as well, I suppose. The point is, it's a genuine question. If someone asks him, is Willie Peters race coach in the NRL, and he's his agent, so I think he is. So I'm a bit sceptical sometimes, but then on the flip side, I couldn't understand why it's a question that had been posed to him.
Yeah, with situations and circumstances like what we're discussing now, for me, you can look at it a lot of ways, can't you? Brave is his agent, and he's paid to do a job, isn't he? So whatever Willie Peters, whoever he signs for us or 3 other NRL teams, Brave's going to get paid off the back of it. So he's just doing his job in a way. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it was only a month ago that there was discussions at the Newcastle Knights that Adam O'Brien was on his way out and Willie Peters might be going there. So it's that it's that old chestnut of when your team's winning trophies, doing well in your top of the league, everybody's talking about your coaches, your players, your scrum halves, and when you're not doing so well or you're mid-table, there's the interpeep out of anybody, is this? So it's all part of the merry-go-round as such, isn't it, in sport? So yeah, he's probably just doing his job. He's brave, and like you say, let's see what comes of it.
Yeah, 𝗀𝗲𝗄𝗏 stock high. Congratulations to Frankie Daylove. He's been named in the Yorkshire squad, the academy squad for the War of the Roses, which is taking place at Craven Park on the 2nd of August. And another player, James, who seems to see that the bright lights of East Hull are much better than the dim lights of the other side, is Jack Charles. Now, nothing's been confirmed by the club, but by all accounts, the media reporting is that Jack Charles is going to be a Robin. It's a deal that's going to involve a transfer fee and no doubt a lot of persuasion. But Jack Charles was, of course, touted to be coming to the Robins last season. He's a player who plays for that lot, who's was propelled to the first team due to injuries and circumstances. He did admirably. I remember the Derby game last season when he came on, and I think for me he was one of the best players, even though he came on in that short stint. What he did, of course, his dad, Chris Charles played for the Robins, and so there's a natural synergy there where we all thought, is he going to follow his dad? But Jack Charles looks like, James, that he's going to be a Robin.
Yeah, I think it's quite an interesting move. Like I said, I think I was surprised, perhaps when he actually did sign an contract extension with that lot, given the way I think some of that toxic fan base were treating him after some of the games last season. But yeah, I think if you look, it's probably about looking more to the future, because I think Tyrone Mayes, is he signed? Was it 1 year or 2 years he signed?
Well, Tyrone Mayes signed a 2-year contract.
Yeah, so potentially what they're looking at is bring Jack Charles in, get him into the club, get him, into the Rovers way. We've seen how, people like, Jack Brown have come over, and actually how they've improved since they've come over, into the club. And potentially they're looking at Jack Charles as a replacement for Tyrone Mayes in the future. I think, it won't cost a lot on the salary cap. Yeah, the cost of paying a fee for him, etc. But it's going to be certainly not as much on the cap as probably Tyrone Mayes. And I think when you look at in conjunction with some of the other players they're sort of bringing in, we've got Samba coming in, haven't we? We've got rumoured Connor Wynn coming in. It's sort of all about bringing in younger players who can develop in the Rovers way, and bringing down the average age of the squad, which I think has been a bit of a concern for us. Obviously you get McIlroy and Murray Hargreaves in, that's going to bump up anyway. But I think for me it's quite a shrewd move. He was sort of Charles being touted around by them lot as a great saviour, and if you can sort of weaken them or sort of knock them down a bit, then
if you believe the media reports, James, they've already got backups for Jack Charles, so Jack Charles isn't all that anyway.
Oh no, yeah, he's got the Kent brothers, haven't they? Got this guy who nobody's heard of for the Broncos.
Yeah, they've got a 12-year-old who's going to step up as well, who's probably the next best thing. So, but I mean, Carl James mentioned recruitment. Noah Booth has, of course, coming to the side. We've seen him in the first team. He came in earlier than expected. It's still not been announced. Connor Wynn, which is, I'm still a bit like, it's a signing that sort of intrigues me. Connor Wynn from Featherstone. Jermaine Sambu from Oldham, of course, he was at St Helens previously. And then Tom Whitehead from Warrington, loose forward or can play second row. All of them are aged under 24. So obviously they bring down the average age of the squad. Then you throw in Eric Dorrow, who can play, So obviously what they're trying to do is make sure that they backfill the squad with young players who are not eating into the salary cap, which then makes you think, well, then where's that top money in the salary cap potentially going? Are they going to go for the big players potentially from the NRL? But saying that, Jack Charles' heads must be turned by decent money, because he's also potentially the next cab off the rank for that lot in terms of the halves. So it's got to be a decent money move, hasn't it? But it's great to see, ultimately, when you look at the squad, Danny Richardson isn't really the future, is he, in terms of halfbacks? He's not really able to fulfill the halfback role now. So it's interesting, really, isn't it? Because if you look at Danny Richardson, if he's out for 10 to 12 weeks, well, that's pretty much
season done.
Who's playing arse? Who's playing the arse then? I can't. Without moving Jez Litton and without change, and which then changes the whole side. Is there an opportunity for Charles to come in now? I wonder if that's what really intrigues me about this deal.
I think the thing is, for me, Chris, I think Jack Charles will be in a very similar situation to what Danny Richardson is now, but he's got a bit more time on his hands. You know, I think he'd be willing to sit there and wait his opportunity where Danny Richardson's obviously out on loan. Well, he was with Salford, wasn't he, before he got injured? And I don't think he's got the time. So I'd be very surprised if Danny Richardson was a Robin next season, one way or another. Whereas Jack Charles, obviously a young kid, he's got that time on his hands. So I don't see the situation changing. Obviously, they're both there to fill a similar role as a backup of the, in the immediate future. So, like James said, it's probably for the next 2 or 3 years, these young uns and building around them young uns. But for the immediate, I don't see the immediate future him getting a sniff, as of next season. So, but he's got time on his hands, like I've just said.
But James, do you think we need him now? Like I said, if you look at the options behind Danny Richardson, very, very limited. Is this a deal that you could see the club pushing through just to make? Because what the club like to do is protect themselves, don't they? They don't leave things to chance. And if Richardson's out for 10 to 12 weeks, we are short.
Yeah, we are very, very vulnerable, and then you get to the situation where you're moving players out of position, aren't you? And into putting square pegs in round holes, which we've been through down that route in the past, and it sort of never works. You're then thinking, okay, moving Broadbent, do you move Morg to half, Broadbent to full back, and on the basis that hopefully Gildart's going to come back in, and then he slots straight back into the centre. It is a bit of quite a big vulnerability, really. So it would make sense to be able to bring him in now. Would they be able to do that on the cap? I don't know the rules.
I would be very surprised if that happened immediately. Very surprised.
I can't see them releasing him now.
Yeah, I think he's got 2 or 3 options before it goes to that. We need him now type of thing. I think, like James has just said, there's maybe that they don't play there naturally, but there's probably 2 options before the third option and what we're just discussing. So I don't see it being immediate. It's definitely for the future.
Yeah, definitely. Right, that brings us to question time. Sean Michael, I hope you have a great time. If you're listening to this, Eva had a great game this evening. She was great. He said, one for discussion. What's with the inconsistency with the knock-ons? Something I mentioned earlier. Before the KR game, every spillage was penalised, but more let several obvious ones go. Shouldn't there be a clear directive? We just want consistency. Of course, that's what we sort of spoke about with the knock-ons earlier about the Leigh ones, whether they went backwards or not. But I tell you what, let's answer this one. What's the general feeling on the Litton incident and the elbow smash into Davis that went unsighted? Now, that was interesting, right? Josh Charnley, how we seemed to just throw an elbow out. Should the RFL take steps to avoid accusations of bias, RE postcode of officials? I'd say, look at that specific incident, James. The Charnley one seemed a bit nasty, really, didn't it? It didn't seem to be just throwing his arms to get the player off him. There seemed to be a bit of intent there.
Yeah, it did. I think, the one with Litton, I don't really have a problem with. I think you can see why it wasn't penalised. But like I say, the one with Josh Charnley, he just sort of seemed to be running, didn't he? And he just sort of flung his elbow out and caught Davis. And it's fortunate, that he didn't feel his HIA. So, just seemed to be a bit of an odd one.
Yeah, it's a player who wouldn't normally come up with that sort of play. But Cal, I think for me, it was reckless. It was to the point where Charlie sort of lost his duty of care to the opposition player by doing that. And I don't know. I suppose, look, we're probably clutching at straws.
I think it's one of them, Chris. If he's got previous, then I think it'd have been looked into. But it's sort of heat of the battle type of thing. It's like you just said a minute ago. It's very uncharacteristic for him to do that. I think he's played 17 seasons or something, hasn't he? So, and his disciplinary record's fairly clean, as most wingers are. So, yeah, I think it's just one of them heat of the battle for me. And yeah, it didn't look great, but it's probably looked worse than we had initially thought.
Yeah, definitely. Right, next question. Now, it's an interesting one. If people are fans of Alan Partridge, they'll probably appreciate this one. Scott Stevens, he says, what's your view on the pedestrianisation of Norwich Town Centre? It's always a topical debate that we have on the Robin Pod. Craig Steele, to be fair, he's already answered it. He says, personally, it's a great idea for if all the infrastructure is in place for rear access to the shops and stores to make this viable. What people don't forget is the traders, and they need access to Dixon's. So it's definitely something that needs looking at. Next question is from Bazza Kingston. He's probably, I tell you what, I bet he's in his little Rolls Royce lorry right now, probably with his double bed. You know, he'll be moaning to everybody he can about how hot it is, and he'll be living the life of luxury now. So, Bazza, if you're listening, I don't feel too sorry for you. But he says, is this Catalan game the perfect game for 𝗀𝗂𝗽𝗏 to prove the doubt was wrong with regards to our credibility of challenging for the League Leaders' Shield and Grand Final, James?
Yes. Because I think there's been a lot, on the last 2 weeks, I think there's a lot of people saying, oh, the wheels have fallen off, the bubble's burst. You know, I said earlier, it's a difficult place to go for us. If we come away with a win there, I think it will sort of shut some of the doubters up, and it maintains us with that 2-point lead going into the break. Yeah,
Matty Sunman, I'm not quite sure what your question is. It says, do we want to have 2 weeks off if Salford can't find players, or is it better to play their reserves and put more points past them? What's better for KR? I mean, obviously, at the moment, there's crisis talks, isn't there, whether Salford are going to face Leeds. Apparently, the players are going on strike and they're not being paid. Paul Rowley, he said that's a load of bollocks, and I don't know where that's come from. Ultimately, I just think we want to play Salford at any time. I mean, if anyone had the misfortune of watching the Castleford-Salford game, it was like, well, I wouldn't even say it was a championship game. It was like two amateur teams just slugging it out. I'd like to play Salford at any time. And to be fair, Carl, the fact we've got them up next after having a break is great timing for us, I think.
Yeah, you know, without being disrespectful, I won't want to be in Salford shoes if Rovers get a win at the weekend and then they have a freshen up the following week, and then, you know, you're playing Rovers straight back again. Yeah.
Oh, was that? Who agreed with that then? I'm sorry, mate. I thought I had a dog or something in the background barking. No, honestly, no comment. Right, obviously, the Robins travelled to Catalans on Saturday. Carl, what are you most looking forward to about Catalans and Perpignan and the atmosphere and the south of France and the sunshine? And, well, I probably just told you everything you're looking for.
Everything you've just said, mate. Full day travel, time off work, bit of time with the missus and see the Rovers family and the normal stuff, you know. We're all a big family. It's a big social gathering, isn't it, wherever we go? So, yeah, all of that in one.
Yeah, if you're managing to get to the south of France, which I'm sure many of you will be in your numbers. Also, I mean, what I will say, James, is the travelling support at Leigh was absolutely fantastic. You know, big numbers, and the Robins players do certainly respond and appreciate the support. And Catalan will be no different. Woody Peters already mentioned his pre-game press conference. You know, people going literally spend their holidays, take their holidays around watching the Robins. So it's great to see great numbers. Final expectations ahead of that game?
I think the 16-point win by Rovers.
Yeah, for me.
Every goal and try. Since '85, we've stood our ground, though trophies passed us by. From Craven Park to Wembley Way, with each toe grip we fight. Now we rise, our heads held high, proudly wearing the red and white.
The Robin Pod is powered by Budget Tyres Auto Centre. Make them your first and only choice for a vast array of vehicle services. They are a reputable East Hull-based car specialist and dedicated to providing quality services at reasonable prices. And don't forget, they are trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of Hull Kingston Rovers.